Hello, hello.
How you doing, Ryker?
I'm doing well, actually.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I make it a point that after I have like a deep conversation, I kind of let the conversation soak in before I go to the next one. Otherwise, you know, the next conversation is gonna go in one ear and out the other. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Anytime I have like a meeting, I just replay it over in my head 2 or 3 times, just so I actually all the points, sink in. Especially if there's like work I need to do afterwards.
yeah, yeah, not wrong. So, hit me. What do you So, per the question I asked you, what are your thoughts?
So, I guess Slacks came to you with the proposal that there needs to be that the investigation team, unit, sub-department, however you want to brand it, needs to be sort of independent of the PD. Currently, it's centralized, falls under high command, which I do agree with. Whether it is state or just its own separate department, however you want to really throw it, I do believe that it shouldn't be centralized in the long run. I guess he kind of proposed that to you. I've been sort of spitballing light ideas with him about that. We haven't really come to any concrete conclusions as to how we would envision it. I personally have a little bit, but between us we have not, because we don't even know who can sign off on it, whether it's the mayor or whoever. But he said that he sort of passed it to you, and then you called me about it, and you posed whether or not I think Slacks would be a good fit for it. A little bit tricky for me to give you a straightforward yes or no, because ultimately it depends on what that looks like. There's a lot of variables there that would really, could potentially change my answer. But here's what I will say. Everybody has a time and a place. Some people are right place, wrong time. Some people are right time, wrong place. Currently, in the short amount of time that the Central Investigations Unit has been running, I believe Slacks is right place, right time. He has provided us with a lot of opportunities that none of us have had before. And despite what people do think and see, wheels are turning. That being said, given my own personal vision of what this independent, well, not so much independent, but for the lack of a better definition, state investigations department, I think it would be right place, wrong time. Sorry, other way around. Right time, wrong place. So the short answer is no.
No to what? Sorry, you kind of...
No, based on how I would envision this state investigations bureau to be run, I do not believe that he would be the best person for it. Solely based on how I envision that unit looking.
Okay.
That's not to say that I think he's been wrong for the job up until now. I think it's, like I said, currently he's right place, right time. But what's being proposed to you is a different time and a different place.
So what who would that person be?
It's difficult to say.
Do you think there's anybody right now that could lead it?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't been in my current position for very long. However, I have been sort of keeping an eye on everybody, even people who are not involved in the unit
Oh,
at
okay,
all,
okay.
even just regular officers who may display, you know, potential skill set
Mm.
required. I think there's a couple of people that may jump to mind if I were to put down a list, but I'm going to be honest, like it's not something that's ever been done before. I don't know what works and what doesn't for something like that. I wish I could give you a list of names.
Okay. To me, that kind of sounds like you think there might be some, but you don't have the experience to necessarily pick one. Is that accurate?
I've never been in a position to make a selection of people to fill such a department. Right now, we have some greens. We have some, people who are new to investigations. We're giving them the same opportunities that, a lot of us were given, like Barrick, for example. He's never been in a position of leadership like that before.
Eugene, think of the 5
He's
months.
been given that opportunity to see what he can do with it. And we're kind of doing the same thing in investigations. Keeping them on a short leash, but we're still giving them the opportunity.
So
I would probably need a bit more time.
No, that's perfectly fine. This is sort of like an exercise, not necessarily an exercise where I expect there to be like any definitive. There was no particular finish line I was looking for, but rather it's the cognitive exercise that I want to put you through.
This the concept of this kind of department, I think it's right place, wrong time. If we were to kick this off the ground right now, I'm not so sure the foundations are present for it to flourish. I think it would collapse under the lack of foundation.
I'm going to be rather frank. I think having an investigative right now is the most idiotic idea that the PD could have had. And it's not because there aren't investigations that need to be handled, but fundamentally the question I would pose is, how do you build a investigative unit when there hasn't been a what is the biggest investigation that has been solved in the last 2 months?
Well, to be honest, the unit has existed for less time than the statute of limitations.
Sure, no, and I get that, but like regardless of the unit, right? Just has there been any investigation that has come to a close in the last 2 months?
That's being ran by the current investigations unit?
No, just across the PD.
Oh, across the PD? Large scale investigations? I don't believe so, no.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I sort of go with it, right? Is at a level you cannot investigate without the backing of the rest of the PD. And so
correct.
I would rather there be energy with it throughout the department, encouragement of investigations when time is ample, right? To have that background. And I get the counterexample because I've spoken to Slacks about it, is like, hey, there's not enough time, But the fact of the matter is, and even y'all have brought it up to me, is like, there's no time to do it because there's all these like 78 calls or whatever, right? Which is fair, but until there's like the PD as a whole is in a good spot, spinning off a specialty unit seems rather counterproductive.
I agree.
And
so far, I agree with Slax's point, but not for the same reasons that he put forward. I don't think time is a factor in whether or not it's successful or not. We will make time. That plain and simple. If there's a couple of dispatch calls that don't get responded to every now and then, at the end of the day, that's not a critical failure. Making time for investigational work is not an issue. I think the issue is this may be a permanent issue as well. and that's why I think we came to the same conclusion, just for different reasons. And this is what I'm experiencing now. I'm not sure Patrol will ever support such a unit, whether it's internally with the PD or external. I've seen it before with other investigational units, and I'm seeing the same behavior now from Patrol.
I agree. To a degree. Under my administration. Sorry, someone asked me to post this up. Yeah, I mean, that's look, why did Slacks kill DeMarco?
Slacks did not kill DeMarco. DeMarco killed himself.
So why was his key taken?
It wasn't taken. He voluntarily handed it back over. I was present.
So how did that conversation actually go?
Okay. I'm glad you asked this, actually, because I knew where when I was present with this conversation, I knew where it was going to head. So I actually quoted exactly what he said. So we met up with him. We knew that he was present for the July 3rd attack at MRPD. His blood was found surrounded by a bunch of casings. We had no intention of bringing him in for that at the time. He had an active warrant. I'll amend that. He either had an active warrant or was going to very shortly, regardless as to whether or not it was active or not. We had no intention of bringing him in because we asked to meet with him to discuss intelligence, and we didn't want to, ask him out there under false pretenses. So regardless, he was going to walk away from that conversation freely. When we asked him about it, he denied all knowledge, said I wasn't there when it didn't happen, which is fine. He then said, he added on to that voluntarily, that he said, quote, I'm tired of running, I'm tired of hiding, I want to get back to living my life. Without giving us an opportunity to respond, he handed the key back to Slacks.
Interesting. And then what happened?
He left. And then he left.
Okay. Would you be open to a conversation alongside Slick Rick?
Yeah.
Because I want to get to the bottom of this. Because I'm hearing two things of a story, and to me, this is very concerning, right? Specifically, rather transparently, I don't really give a fuck whether or not, an investigation bubbled out of him. But I want to bring y'all in a room, and I want to hear, because I imagine the truth is somewhere in between, and I want to make sense of it, because I have been getting the impression that, the PD's biggest CI of all time was murdered.
I'll be honest with you, he really didn't provide anything substantial at all.
That's not true.
When I say substantial, I mean things that we can.
He literally, Ryker, was the second in command of a gang in which he gave a lot of vital information. And while that information may not have been enough to file a subpoena and whatnot, it gives you at least an angle by which to investigate.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually.
And so anytime with anyone who thinks that's not the case is actually fucking soze word. It's very, just to be rather plain.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's the last thing I want to hear.
Sure. If he had said to me, I want to remain in the safe house because I'm scared for my life, I would have said absolutely.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, regardless as to whether or not he still was part of the attack at MRPD, I personally did not see him with a gun in hand. Maybe he was present, just there. Maybe he was filming. Maybe, for whatever reason. I know he was there. I don't know his extent. So I'm not going to condemn a man to death based on that alone. So if he said, I want to stay in the safe house, I would have said, fine, keep the key. He volunteered the key. He said, and I quote,
I don't want to say retarded in game with people that I don't know. Okay. All right. Look, I believe you, Ryker. I have no reason to think otherwise. I do, like I said, I think I want to have a conversation with Slick present as well. And the reason is, just to get to the bottom of it, because this is just quite frankly one of my most concerning things, and not to. I don't think anything has to come out of it, right? Like, I don't think anyone needs to be suspended or anything crazy or whatever. But I think what I do want to come out of it is, how do we make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again, if there's a way forward,
Absolutely.
And so,
I completely agree. The guidelines for the PD when it comes to confidential informants were rewritten after the last time a CI was hurt, because quite frankly they were abysmal. I didn't think we'd ever be in a position where a CI said, I don't want to be hidden anymore, I want to get back out there and live my life. And then 12 hours later they're dead.
Why did nobody attempt to look for drug sales in Polito?
Can you, like, within a certain time frame, or just in general, or?
Well, after the information about DeMarco came out, because he very clearly stated they had drugs upon, like, weed upon weed, and they do all kinds of weed sales up there. And to me, it would have been rather common sense to find someone, get 1 or 2 arrests, you kick their doors in, you get their phone subpoenas, you see the relationships with the individuals that have been identified, and now the word of somebody that is just hearsay is no longer hearsay, because hearsay gets upgraded the moment you have substantiating, like, circumstances surrounding it.
Weed sale drug busts were made in Polito after that time.
I see.
They were entirely unrelated to anything that was mentioned. I myself actually arrested somebody for that.
Okay,
but
you get my point, though, right?
I do.
Yeah. And that's kind of the angle by which I would expect the investigative unit to kind of be working with, instead of watching. Anyways, let's wait till Slick is around. I'm gonna give you a call, and we'll try to set something up for today. Like I said, this is not just to be rather clear, this is not a witch hunt. This is the guy's dead at this point, right? I'd rather this be let's learn from this. How do we do it better? And in order for me to even get that in my head, I need all parties here to find out what the fuck actually happened.
Okay.
So, all right.
I wish, like I said, I knew as that conversation came up, I knew that it would need to be brought back up in future.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote down immediately what he said. I wish it was recorded. I wish we were all recording at all times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. Any death is a tragedy. Even if they refused help at the end of the day. Even if somebody doesn't want to be helped, you can still help them.
Mm-hmm.
So
understandable. All right. I appreciate that, Ryker.
If we did fail, then we need to be made, made aware of that.
Okay.
And I like to think that I've made it pretty clear that I'm not beyond admitting failure when it happens.
Yeah. No, I do believe that. It's right now, regardless of even the streets talk, right? And the truth is not always black and white. And like my biggest concern right now is this situation and the messaging out there. Will it affect future CIs from wanting to step forward, right? And so, what's the resolution around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's we now have basically since the birth of the PD, we've got 2 dead CIs.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we're hurting ourselves in confusion if we can't protect them.
Okay.
So even if it means admitting failure, admitting fault, being headhunted or witch hunted or whatever, at the end of the day, the main priority needs to be protecting the people that do come forward.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing?
Exactly. Okay.
And I don't think anybody's pride can come before that.
No, absolutely not. I'm a strong believer that anybody is in the LSPD needs to be putting their life on the line, even if it means certain death.
Yeah, and there are some people that are not willing to do that.
Yeah, well, that's what G6 is for.
Yeah.
Ryker, you take care, all right?
Yeah, you too.
I mean,